The morning my father died, my stepmother didn't cry. Instead, she looked straight at me and said, "Pack your things. This house was never yours." My name is Emily Carter, and for 8 years, I had lived in that mansion believing I was still part of my father's family. The funeral wasn't even over before she started replacing our family photos with expensive paintings. My stepbrother Ryan smiled every time she insulted me. "You've got 24 hours, he whispered. "Then you're homeless." I left without arguing. They thought I had lost everything. What they didn't know, my father had spent years preparing for this exact moment. For weeks, I rented a tiny apartment and worked quietly at a local bookstore. Meanwhile, Ryan posted photos online celebrating his new empire. Luxury cars, private parties, designer suits. He acted like the king of a kingdom that wasn't even legally his. One afternoon, I received a call from a law office. "Miss Carter," the attorney said calmly, "your father instructed us to wait 30 days before contacting you." My hands froze. There is a second will. Second will? Nobody had ever mentioned it. When I arrived, the attorney handed me a sealed envelope written in my father's handwriting. "If you're reading this, they showed you exactly who they are." Tears filled my eyes. Inside was a document that changed everything. The mansion, company, every investment. Everything had been placed into a family trust. The only permanent beneficiary was me. There was just one condition. The trust would activate only if my stepmother attempted to remove me from the house within 30 days of my father's death. She had triggered the clause herself. The attorney smiled. "Congratulations," I whispered. "So, they own nothing?" "Actually," he replied, "they've been living on borrowed time." The next morning, legal notices arrived at the mansion. Ryan laughed when he saw the papers. Then he read page 2. His smile disappeared. By afternoon, bank accounts connected to the company were frozen. Luxury vehicles were scheduled for repossession. Even the mansion was no longer under their control. For the first time in years, my stepmother looked terrified. She rushed to my apartment that evening. Without makeup, without jewelry, without confidence. She knocked until I opened the door. "Emily," she said softly, "we're family." I almost laughed. "Family? You misunderstood everything." "No," I replied. "I finally understood everything." She begged me to stop the legal process. I simply handed her the same words she'd once given me. "You have 24 hours. Then I closed the door. Ryan wasn't ready to surrender. He secretly transferred company files onto a flash drive, hoping to sell confidential information to a competitor before losing access. But my father had anticipated that too. Every important document contained invisible digital tracking. The moment Ryan opened the files, security alerts reached the company's legal department. He was arrested before the meeting even happened. Watching the news that night, I realized something chilling. My father hadn't just protected his fortune. He had predicted their greed years before it happened. 3 weeks later, the mansion officially became mine. Neighbors expected me to move back immediately. They said, I donated most of the expensive furniture to charities. The ballroom became a children's education center. Half of the property was converted into housing for families escaping domestic abuse. Reporters asked why I wasn't enjoying my inheritance. I smiled. My father didn't leave me money so I could become like them. Months later, while organizing old boxes in the attic, I discovered one final letter hidden beneath family albums. "Emily," my father wrote, "revenge isn't making them suffer. It's proving they never deserved the power they once had. If you reach this letter, then you've already won." I folded the paper carefully. Outside, children laughed in the garden that once hosted Ryan's extravagant parties. The house finally felt alive again. Not because it belonged to me, but because it finally belonged to people who appreciated it. As for my stepmother and Ryan, they disappeared from every luxury magazine they once chased. No mansion, no company, no fortune. Just the consequences of believing kindness was weakness. They spent years trying to erase me from my own family. In the end, their own greed erased them instead.